I was another time when the Lord spoke to me. I was in a restaurant, and this guy walked in, huge, bodybuilder guy. I found out later he had been a former Mr. Universe, and so he walks in huge, and I get this word as soon as he walks in. So I walk over to his table, and I've learned when you're in a public place not to, just say, "Thus saith the Lord," and something like that, but to use a little diplomacy,
Yeah.
So I said to him, I said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, I'm kind of a discerning fella." I said, "Have you ever worked out?" And, he laughed, and he said, "Yeah, I've worked out a little bit." And so I said, "Well, if you don't mind, I was just doing that to meet you." I said, "But when you came in, I feel like the Lord spoke something to me. Would you mind if I shared it with you?" And he looked at his wife, and he said to me, "Would you please," he said, "sit down, please, and share what you feel." So I sat down, and I said, "I saw you as a little boy sitting in your grandmother's lap, and she had the Bible there, and she had read the story of Samson to you, and you were crying about something. And she told you if you would commit your life to Christ, he would make you strong like Samson, if you would live for God." And I said, "God told me to tell you that he's kept up with his end of the deal, but you haven't kept up with your end of the deal." And, when you tell that to Mr. Universe, you better be right. So he started crying, and he said, "When I was young, I was raised by a single mother, and my grandmother raised me because she was working. Some boys threw some rocks on my way home from school, hit me in the head. I went home crying. My grandmother read me that story." And he said, "And I committed my life to Christ." And he said, "On the way to the restaurant today, I told my wife that story for the first time. And I told her, 'Honey, we have got to get back in church because I have not kept up my end of the deal.'"